Uh, Hello again, everyone. This is Jeff Adler, continuing my video series, Why I'm Right 2.0. Just some random thoughts. First, happy Memorial Day. Uh, I'd like to remind people that they sometimes they get the Memorial Day and Veterans Day mixed up, and you see a lot of people rightfully thanking veterans. You should never wait for a holiday to do that. This is about those who sacrificed everything for our country today. As the saying goes, those in the military all gave some, but some gave all. Today is for those who gave all. Almost everybody in America knows firsthand, or knows somebody who knows firsthand, uh, someone who died uh, while serving their country, either in combat or in a non combat situation, which is no less important. And a lot of people forget, as especially our friends on the left, who seem to find a interesting sport sometimes out of criticizing people in the military when they do, that their ability to make that criticism comes at the price of having somebody standing a post and protecting that freedom. And I also find it quite interesting that in and around holidays like Memorial Day and Veterans Day, that a lot of people suddenly come out of the woodwork from the left, pretending or being reminded to uh, become pro-military or pro-American, what it might be, only to forget all of it when it suits them, when making arguments about something else and completely and hypocritically contradicting their own so-called patriotism. Let's talk about that word patriotism. What does it mean? Because some people like to broaden its meaning to serve their own purposes. Well, uh, patriotism, as a from its root word, uh, is patriarch, or meaning father, or from the male side of a family. In the case of patriotism, it probably is meant to mean uh, the fatherland, not to be, German about it or Germanic about it, but our language is English is partly Germanic. In fact, it's mostly Germanic. So having a word like patriotism, it doesn't make a big stretch to imagine that the Germans, who think of their country in a male way, even though we say she when we refer to our country, where that word would come from. But what is patriotism when we're talking about the spirit of the word, not the literal meaning of the word? It means love of country. Um, it's kind of hard for me to believe that someone can not just criticize, because the First Amendment and lots of things in our Constitution, our culture, our way of life, the existence of America, generally speaking, protects criticism. And we're big enough to deal with it, whatever that criticism is. But there are a lot of people out there who aren't just criticizing how America's being run, but they're criticizing America as it is. And then on Memorial Day, for instance, suddenly they're like, oh, yay for the troops, and yay for the fallen, and yay for the whatever. And they go right back to this diatribe, um, which contradicts their supposed patriotism, supposed love of country. Now, Patriotism isn't always an action. It's not always a word or a series of words. It's a feeling. How do you feel about your country? From what you understand it to mean, where its place in the world is, what have you. I mean, whatever context you want to put it in. Do you agree with its core principles? Or do you think its core is corrupt somehow? Because a lot of lefties actually believe that America is not only due a comeuppance, and has for a while, but is institutionally corrupt, institutionally bad. And I'm not talking about a handful, I'm talking about huge swaths of lefties in this country actually do not like this country. Whether they hate America, which, as I said in a previous video, that word is a very strong meaning. It has a lot of connotation to it. It usually comes with a very physical or manifests itself physically as well as emotionally. So whether people actually hate this country, there might be a few, but mostly they dislike it. Now, a dislike can come with a love of country, but it's getting into more difficult territory. I would not be hesitant to say that there are a lot of people whose dislike of their country keeps them from loving it, or they'd love it if it were like this, or they'd love it if it didn't have such and such perceived history, or whatever. And the people who can't find a way to love their country cannot in turn be patriotic. They can't be patriots. Now, I just saw something just 15 minutes ago on Facebook. Blew my mind. You know, whenever somebody on the left posts something, they say, oh, well, your red flags go up. It's just, yeah, they go up not because of what I read or heard. It's because a left winger posts something. Then my flags go up. I haven't even read it yet. I haven't understood it yet. I haven't heard it yet, whatever it might be. If a lefty posts something, my red flag goes up. Mostly because they post stupid stuff. The klaxon bells are going off. Then I read it and validate and confirm my suspicion. This was an interesting one. Some nobody who was playing reporter anchor on some news outlet. I didn't bother to get his name or where it was. Never seen him before. Posted a video claiming that the only real protesters, or the real protesters, he didn't say only, the real protesters were the football players kneeling at football games. Now, if you take that sentence and you think about it, on its face, it sounds like, can people, you say to yourself, can people who kneel at a football game be patriots? Well, let's stew on that for a second, but let's also tackle the way the sentence was phrased. The real patriots, and the real was put in italics and bold lettering. The real patriots. Now, if they are the real patriots, by logically then, that everyone who's not kneeling is not a real patriot. I mean, it's poorly written to start with. And I don't really believe the idiots who created this video or this meme of photographs of multiple teams kneeling during football games from the NFL from last year actually believe that there are no other patriots than the people kneeling at football games. Because they didn't write the word only. But it's so poorly written right out of the gate that one has to wonder. So if they're the real patriots, does that mean the people who stand and put their hand over their heart, they're not patriots? Or they're not real patriots? You see where I'm going with that? It's kind of insulting. No, it's not kind of. It's freaking insulting is what it is. But this is how they argue, the left, progressives. This is how they argue stuff. They make extreme statements out of banal little tiny pieces of information. Now, going back to whether or not these guys are patriots. Now, football players were kneeling some for different reasons. Some because they were kneeling because they were trying to be copacetic with their brother on the team, but they themselves wouldn't have kneeled on their own. Some of them were kneeling because they felt that it was getting somewhere politically away from the football game and away from the NFL, that they were helping advance a cause. And of course there's some who were doing it because they directly wanted or believed in that cause, or believed that they needed to protest to advance an idea. Now, protesting is as American as it gets. Using your First Amendment rights, as long as you're not stepping on the toes of others, perfectly fine. It doesn't get any more American than that. There's nothing patriotic or unpatriotic about protesting in and of itself. Where that statement starts to fall apart, however, is in the motivation. What motivates somebody to kneel during a national anthem? And what is the point of standing, looking at the flag, and putting your hand over your heart, or if you're in the military, saluting during the national anthem? It's lost on a lot of people. If you know that the reason you stand, look at the flag, and put your hand over your heart while the national anthem is playing is to honor those who have fought to give you the freedoms you enjoy, and to honor the basic understanding of what it is to be an American and what America itself stands for, then you get it. If you kneel, don't look at the flag, don't put your hand over your heart, don't take your lid off, don't do the things that are accepted as a means by which you can manifest your understanding of what I just mentioned about why we do it, then you are ipso facto saying that you don't honor the people who fought to give you the freedom to sit there with your finger up your nose. You do not honor or agree with the basic principles of America and what it stands for. Now, the argument is that you can kneel for the national anthem and be a patriot. And you can kneel for the national anthem and love your country. And you can kneel for the national anthem and still honor those who fought to give you that right to kneel as a means of First Amendment protesting. And while that might be true, it cannot be categorically said to be always true. The motivation, the why. It's always the why, folks. Why are they kneeling? Now, some people are kneeling despite the fact they love the military and the people who fight for it. They're kneeling despite the fact they love America. They're kneeling because, like I said, they're supporting their brothers, they're supporting a cause. And there's a time and a place to do these things, and protesting the national anthem probably isn't it. That's just bad judgment in many cases, but it's not unpatriotic all by itself. But the people who are kneeling because they actually believe that the country is institutionally corrupt, racist, whatever the problem is. Those that do not believe in the basic ideas of America and what it stands for. It can then therefore be argued that those people are unpatriotic, and that the manifestation of that lack of patriotism through opportunism is them kneeling at a football game. You cannot paint with a broad brush, and I don't care who you are. The liberals do this all the time. It's an all or nothing game with them. Everybody, everything, all the time. Well, things aren't that way. You might say there's a little gray out there. It's coming from Mr. Black and White himself. I understand. But there's the gray in our lives does not have to do with right and wrong or morality. That's not where the gray is. The gray is in the understanding of what motivates people, so that there's so many different reasons people do what they do. It's not always just this or just that. So painting with a broad brush is pretty stupid. It's like, I have to watch myself. I can't say all liberals are X or all Democrats are Y. Most, maybe. Now, if I go so far to say, like liberal in the bad term, I'm meaning just the bad ones. If I say progressive, they're probably all bad, because that's a mindset that I cannot agree with. When it deals with progressive things, that even progressives themselves aren't all bad people. They could, still love dogs and pat small children on the head. Okay, great. When it comes to their beliefs, their policies, their politics, they're bad. To me. To say the only real, or to say the real, everyone that was kneeling was a patriot is just as stupid. You don't know their motivation. If they believe in their heart that America is bad, that's not patriotism. That's not love of country. It's the very opposite of that. So you have to be able to discern and look into these things and be critical of them. And we'll talk about that criticism and that patriotism, and a little bit more about being willing to call a spade on part 2.